Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Good morning. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your dog come? Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to December 7th, 2011, Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. Commissioner Williams has the dog today.
We got a dog here that's actually got more white hair than I do, so, but not as much as Jim. So,
he's not paying attention.
Yeah, we have a little Aussie dog here, 8 to 10 months old, found over by Dr. Woods, or
it was dropped off to Dr. Woods.
Dropped off at Dr. Woods in Lorain. Friendly little dog, going to be available Saturday after 3 o'clock. Make a great present for somebody. So please come out to the dog kennel and see the dogs, and even just come out and play with them. That'd be a great thing. All right, thank you.
Madam Clerk.
At 9:45, we'll have a presentation by Charlie Neff, Executive Director of Mental Health, and Dr. Crow, Director of Children's Services, for the possible funding of Turning Point. 10 o'clock, there will be a public hearing on the transfer for fare increases and route changes. Under Resolutions Number 1, Job and Family Services Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Advances, repayments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Let me
Aye.
just ask real quick, was that for the transportation center, that advance that we took back?
Correct.
That was from the
Yes.
transportation center. But is that all of it, or is there
No.
more to come?
There's
We
like,
still have some encumbrances that we're working through, so there'll still be a few more dollars coming back from that once we clear out the ledger of still some bills that are outstanding.
Okay, thank you.
No requisitions, no travel bills.
so moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
Thank you, Commissioner Kalo. I do have a number of personnel issues I need to talk to the board about, potential hires at Golden Acres, several potential hires at the E911 agency, and also we still have an outstanding labor contract we need to discuss. Those topics are allowable for discussions in executive session under the Sunshine Law. It acts at the conclusion of our regular board meeting today. We go into executive session to have those talks. Thank you.
The contract, which contract is that for?
I believe we still have not come out and made a
auditors.
decision on the auditor's contract.
On the auditors. Well, I wanted to bring that up. That's got to be signed this week? Or no?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The reason I want to bring that up is there were 2 employees that you found that were making above the pay grade. Is that correct?
That was my understanding from the people that negotiated the contract, yes.
Okay, so we have 2 individuals that are making above the pay grade.
My understanding was that under the old contract, there was some individuals that were above the maximum allowed by the contract
Okay.
on their base wage.
And Mr. Ennis, you spoke with the deputy chief, and he made a comment that it was actually a bonus.
Well, I spoke with the deputy chief there, and I'm still looking through the provisions in the contract. The contract calls that it's not supposed to be done on a wait period scale, but there is what we call a roll-up provision at the end of the contract, and I'm kind of sorting through the provisions to figure out how that works. So it appears to be more a case of methodology than anything. But I haven't yet determined what the economic impact of doing it in that manner is.
Okay. Yeah, I know I left Mr. Stewart a voicemail on Friday and then an email on Monday asking about the pay increases and or the additional pay, and I haven't heard anything from the auditor's office. I just want to let the board members know that we're not getting cooperation from the auditor to find out what's going on with this, and with the contract not being, I guess, completely understood of what's going on and how these individuals got pay increases, it may be something that we would want to reject, but we can talk about that later if you would like.
The contract that we're going to be voting on does rectify that issue.
It does. There was my understanding, again, I was not there at the negotiations. With my limited understanding of it is that they reclassified those positions to a higher pay grade. So therefore, the beginning and ending minimums and maximums would therefore be higher, which would incorporate that within the boundaries of those two.
So two individuals, they went through, they went what appears to be above the contract or
The range.
the range, and then now they're just giving them a higher pay classification.
It would appear that's how they resolved that issue of being outside the range. Again, you asked for additional information that you're waiting on, so there may be more to it than that. Most of these contracts, when somebody is above a max, when I say most of them, because I can't recall all 20 contracts in the county, most will call for some kind of stipend above that if there's an annual pay increase. So the issue would be, were there pay increases in those years? If they were above the max and there's no pay increases, then there should have been no bonus stipend, and
Right.
then there definitely should never be a roll-up. So all of that has to be analyzed, and I asked for that to be analyzed subsequent to inquiries from the board when we discussed this in executive session, and I provided you that summary of potential cost that was given to me. I did not prepare that.
Okay.
And so I have forwarded it to the board, and I'll have to rely upon its accuracy because it wasn't generated by us.
Yeah. My concern is that out of all the contracts that we've gone through, we're now seeing two individuals just that kind of been hand-selected, it almost appears, to get a pay increase.
I really can't comment on that. I can only tell you, that what I was told occurred with the contract. I don't know if they got a pay increase. I don't know if they were hired at that rate or they
bonus or
right. I don't have any knowledge of those things. That would have to come from the auditor's office upon inquiry.
Okay.
I can't imagine that it was due to a pay increase. I can't even remember the last time any of our employees got a pay increase, and then going forward, they have a pay freeze. So in essence, most of our employees have taken a pay cut over the last few years. So it's kind of hard to swallow to see, just two people singled out and making more than they are supposed to.
Well, again, there may be justifications we're unaware of. We just really haven't received those.
Yeah, and like I said, I haven't had a response from the auditor either.
Okay.
So, but there may be, like Mr. Ennis, you said that Craig felt that there was not two, but one person that got a bonus.
That was my impression from speaking with him.
So, I mean, there may be something else going on there. We may have two that got increases and then one person with a bonus. So just something that we need to take a look at there. I don't think it's fair to the rest of the county employees if other individuals are getting paid above that pay grade. Okay.
Mr. Cortez, it was still in your comments.
Mike?
This was yours.
Number 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
number
9, I'm sorry.
That's what you were discussing. So is there anything else under number 9 for executive session?
No, I apologize. I thought I requested the executive session. I thought I was done, and
Okay.
Commissioner Williams,
Okay.
I was just responding to his
Okay.
inquiry.
All right. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything. Madam Clerk?
Approve and waive the reading of the County Commissioners meetings of November 23rd, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Approve and enter a contract with Wellington Township for county health insurance effective January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Job and Family, authorized purchase service agreement with Emerge Inc., Elaria, to provide internet service to agency website for county year 12, effective January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012, and the amount not to exceed $9,420. Authorized director to execute on behalf of the board with prosecutors' approval as to form, and amend for changes in program and content increased value.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Authorized lease agreement with MT Business Technologies, Avon Lake, for copy machines effective February 1st, 2012 through January 31st, 2017, and a cost of $4,590.60 per year. Authorized director to execute on behalf of the board with prosecutors' approval as to form and amend for changes in programming content and increased value.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Solid Waste, renew the contract with Chemtron Corporation Avon to provide household hazardous waste collection at the County Collection Center effective December 31st, 2012, and contains a 30-day cancellation clause.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Prosecutor Treasurer, accept and journalize the DRETAC appropriation and expenditure report as submitted by the Treasurer and Prosecutor pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 321.261 for the year 2012. Revenue generated for 2011 was $802,240.25, and the 2012 estimate of anticipated revenue will be approximately $720,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under the Sheriff, approve and enter in contract with New Russia Township for additional police protection in the township, effective January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012, and contains a 30-day cancellation clause at a cost of $26.66 per hour.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under TV, accept a proposal with Mercy Hospital Lorain to operate the tuberculosis clinic, effective January 1st, 2012, subject to the MOU.
Tasha Fries is here from Mercy Hospital. If you could join us at the podium. I won't make a motion as of yet. Mr. Cortez, we can do some talking about her and let her present. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. I just have a brief statement.
Okay.
Several months ago, Lorain County approached Mercy to assist in meeting the needs for tuberculosis treatment services for those individuals diagnosed with TB. By offering this service, it furthers our mission of providing care to all those in need and keeps a community resource close to home for those living with TB at a significant cost savings to the county and taxpayers. At Mercy, we are fortunate to have medical staff with expertise in the treatment of TB. Our infectious disease department treats all forms of infectious disease, including TB, and we have physicians certified in infectious disease. Testing is available in our occupational health center and our physician offices. We also provide the latest screening equipment, on-site testing, and isolation rooms should there be a need. Over the next several months, we will begin the process of working with Lorain County staff to transition these services and ensure seamless care to current TB patients. We're confident in our team of medical professionals and pleased to offer our services to the county.
Well, thank you. This all started, I guess, with you originally.
Well, yeah, yeah. There was just some concerns that I had about when I looked at the minutes from the TB clinic, and there was quite a bit of money generated by the levy, and I was just inquiring, and it seemed like we were spending an awful lot of money to prevent and treat TB patients, and we thought we would see if we could do a better job, not only a better job, but a more effective and less costly job. So we decided to send Mr. Cortez out and find different alternatives that we could use for this purpose, and it would be a savings to the taxpayers and with no risk to the health and safety of our citizens. So that's how we got to where we are today. And if you want to expand on how you went about getting proposals.
I did contact both local healthcare facilities. EMH guided us towards working with Mercy. It was more in their bailiwick of what they were doing to infectious disease and OC health. We spent several months negotiating. Proposals went back and forth. This morning I took a look at the numbers and talked to the budget director, and as a macro, it's anticipated that TB services in Lorain County will run about $600,000 this year off the levy. With a mature year next year on this proposal, and still with a margin of profit for Mercy, we'll spend about $325,000. So we'll generate in the neighborhood of, I anticipate $250,000 to $275,000 in potential savings. The proposal is for 3 years. Those savings should continue to roll up. There's some unknowns, like there is with everything else, but I think we've anticipated the bulk of those issues that we can deal with down the road. So we may have to come back and revisit this and tighten it up a little bit at the end of next year. First year is going to be the most challenging. Obviously,
well, to tie into that, Jim, while you're going, though, if we have that type of effective savings, because this has to go to the ballot again next year.
It does, and
we'll be able to lower the
ask.
The ask. We'll be able to lower the amount of millage to support.
Right. Let me explain.
Services.
Let me explain briefly for those, because we've been looking at this a lot. The services to residents that are identified, and actually I want to use the word. I don't really want to use the word residents because they could just be located in Lorain County, folks that have TB. The treatment becomes the responsibility of the county, and therefore, absent a levy, would have to be paid from an already weakened and devastated general fund. So the levy is still greatly needed, and we would need to place it on the ballot next year. I would hope that we would be asking for a significant reduction in that levy to demonstrate to the residents that we've made strides in efficiencies in delivering services. There will be some services that are offered that that have been offered in the past that aren't particularly mandated, that will be slightly curtailed, and we talked about those during the summer. But those that need treatment, need medication, need isolation, those services will be available in a state-of-the-art environment with new equipment and people that work in infectious control. I think the staff at the TB clinic have done a great job. I think over the years they've rendered tremendous service to Lorain County, but we're in a transformational economy. We're in a transformational managerial style with regards to the reduction of funds to produce services, and we have to find different ways to deliver those services with less revenue. Therefore, we have to lower those costs somehow. And I think that this proposal accomplishes all those things. There are going to be some unhappy people. I'm sure we haven't heard the end of this. And we still have to hammer out a MOU legal document with Mercy, because I'm only asking you to adopt a proposal. No sense doing all that work if we weren't going to adopt a proposal. Right. Another thing I'm trying to do is not do work that's not going to get any traction. So this is the first step. Before, we would have waited till we had the contract, and then we may have looped back and had all kinds of other disturbances and upset that work. So today it's just adopting the proposal. I anticipate possibly January 1st having both entities working on TB issues in Lorain County as we do a smooth transition. In my correspondence, which you received a copy of, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at it this morning, I indicated that I wanted them to cease clinic operations on the 31st of January and then cease operations thereafter, all operations on February 12th. That gives us a considerable amount of lead time to ensure that those that are receiving services receive them in a manner that transitions them very, very easily from one provider to the next provider, and that records and responsibilities and the things that need to be accomplished in a good managerial fashion are accomplished, and that we don't have any holes in the services to the community. I think that we planned it out well. I'm sorry for the people that may, at the TB clinic, that may or may not have continued employment, because I understand Mercy will possibly be picking a few of those people up in their proposal. But you sent me out and asked me to come back with something that would still provide the services and reduce costs, and this is what I've come up with.
Well, it'd be nice working with Mercy as a local hospital also. I mean, it's local employment, so thank you very much, Kasia. Tell Ed we said thank you.
Thank you, will do.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Anything further? Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
I don't have anything additional this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Ennis, Assistant County Prosecutor?
I have no report this morning.
Do we want to do the Commissioner's report, or would we like to do Mr. Neff and Mr. Crow since they're here?
Yeah, let's do Mr. Knapp, Dr. Crow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciate the opportunity to come before you this morning to make a request of the board. The Board of Mental Health is the fiscal agent for the Integrated Services Partnership of Lorain County, and we understand and deeply appreciate the difficult budget decisions that the Board of Commissioners are facing for 2012 and beyond.
Charlie, they said they can't hear you. You're too close to the mic.
Oh, sorry. Is this okay?
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. As I was saying, we appreciate the difficult decisions that you all are facing financially. I personally appreciate that. We've received $4 million in annual cuts from the state for mental health services in the county, so I feel your pain. And but as a casualty of the budget for 12, that we were concerned about the closure of the Turning Point program, which is operated by the Domestic Relations Court. And that program is a residential program that has 10 beds, 5 for boys and 5 for girls. Primarily, these are adolescents who are involved in domestic violence situations and must be removed from the home, so they can't be there, so they have to be somewhere. And we're concerned that alternative situations would be more expensive to other systems such as foster care and other kinds of settings. Residential care is much more expensive. So in talking with the other members of the ISP and in consultation with Superintendent Amber Fisher from DD Board, Elaine Jorges from the Lorain County Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services Board, Gary Crow from the Children's Services Board, and in consultation with the court staff, would like to request that you consider accepting an emergency grant to the general fund in the amount of $308,000 for calendar year 2012 to allow that program to continue operating. This buys us at least another year to try to figure out another solution. It's not something that the ISP can do year in and year out going forward, but we have a fund balance that we would be willing to put towards this. So we feel it's very valuable to the community and the kids.
We appreciate that.
Is that enough to cover all the expenses at Turning Point then?
I understand that there are some federal dollars that are coming also to the program through the Children's Services Board.
Okay.
I believe it does.
Well, I mean, our idea was to cut the budget, not cut programming. I mean, we don't have a choice in some of those instances, but yeah, we would love to see that program continue. I know I would. So if you're willing to fund us for another year, I would be more than happy to accept your donation.
Well, does that mean then we get to de-appropriate $300,000 from the budget that we're putting out for next week?
I don't. That's not my understanding,
I'm looking at
Commissioner.
our budget director and director.
Well, I've already had these talks back and forth. I don't see Doug. Is he here?
Yeah, he's back.
Yes,
Doug.
he's here.
Okay.
Well, Doug, I warned you. So why don't you come on up and let's have that dialogue.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
all the partners.
Dr. Crow and Elaine,
Amber?
Amber.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Doug. Nice gift.
Yeah, we're very gratified with our children's serving partners and very grateful for their support that they are prepared to offer us in this one-time allocation in our time of need, as we have indicated to them that, and as we were searching out for funding to replace that. The judges, as well as our partners, in addition to law enforcement and others, and Children Family First Council, all believe that it's essential that program remain open, and we were committed to doing that. We are prepared to do what we need to do to maintain that for this year. We were not prepared to take away the funding at this time. Subsequent to my discussions of the last 2 days, I am prepared to go back to the judges and indicate the concern and the request that you would have of them to reconsider, recalculating the amounts that would be necessary and reasonable to order as a budgetary item. But I'm not prepared to make any assertions or make any representations today that would be their plan.
Because this is after the fact of when you guys sent over your entry last week.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, this is
Yes.
above and beyond that. So that's
Yes.
why I was asking at the additional $308,000.
Yes.
Because you were going to fund Turning Point anyway.
Well, we were going to try. That's again, the mandate I was given by the judges is that the program stays open.
Okay.
And so, much like your administrator, when you give him a mandate to do something, you just find a way to do it. And so that was my mandate to do so. And so this will certainly take a great deal of pressure off of me in terms of what needs to be cut, what needs to be eliminated, what needs to be as prioritized in terms of do we do this or do we do that. But the clear mandate that I was given is that Turning Point stays open.
Now, the judges went through and they made a decision to raise fees in order to raise an additional $500,000. And I guess where I'm confused.
The fees. Excuse me, Commissioner. The fees would not raise the $500,000. What that would be a combination of is additional personnel cuts, in addition to fees, in addition to court costs. We're looking at personnel cuts through attrition. We had looked at a whole litany of items that but were it for this particular benefit to us, certainly might have included furlough days. And it's the same things that all the other departments that are funded by the general fund are having to endure through this process.
You were able to come up with $500,000 cuts from the general budget.
We had ordered an amount of the budget of the general fund that was $500,000 less, consistent with the letter that we were sent. That was your original intent to reduce our budget by. It's still our position that we were trying to be good partners with the commissioners and reduce the monies, because that was what we were told was required by you as our portion to accommodate the cuts that you needed to have done.
Well, correct. I wanted to make wanted to get to actually $648,000. That's the number that I came up with, our budget director came up with. Lisa, can you come up here? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah. And it may be my mistake. I may have misunderstood. I just want to make sure that we got the numbers right. With the programs, what did it total? 640?
I believe it was 654,000 or 659,000. I don't have that particular sheet in my folder. That was the domestic relations request when they submitted their budget package for next year. That is the amount that it would take to fund Pathways and Turning Point fully.
Okay.
That's not the amount that the general fund had contributed. The general fund had contributed about a little over $500,000, the $503 that was reflected in the allocations and reflected in the letter we received in September that that you would be eliminating from your general fund budget. What we presented to you was, so we were attempting to restructure some of our budget so that it accurately reflected the amounts that were the program's cost. We would still, look at contributing, in different areas, but we simply wanted to be more accurate and do less of the transfers that, that take up, again, it's a matter of efficiency. If we spend a great deal of time doing transfers, it's things that we can't, that we have to take time to do, that we don't have time to do other things.
I think that was the intent too. That's how all the departments agreed. Let's start cleaning all this up for housekeeping.
Right.
Right. So.
And I actually do appreciate the commissioner's position that is to all of our benefit, is to have budgetary requests that are more accurate to the actual needs that we have, as opposed to the arbitrary amounts that might have been listed years and years ago that were just continually worked through.
Okay. So am I under the understanding that it took $500,000 to basically run this program, but the budget for it was $650-some thousand?
It took $500 in 2011 for fiscal year 2011, calendar year 2011. It would have been $503,000 of the general fund budget.
Okay.
For two programs or one?
Yeah,
For two programs.
Let me try to tease through this for you. And we've been round and round, and we've talked about it, and there's timing issues and there's terminology issues, and I understand completely where we ended up. There is other sources of funding for these programs that are not, part of this program is not relying upon the general fund for that funding. What the judges did, and what we didn't know previously when the numbers were first being bantered about out here, we were looking at a global number, but we were talking in terms of the general reliance upon the general fund. So we were talking with two different terms. So when we indicated to them that the general fund was no longer going to support those programs, they looked to what the funding from the general fund was. Am I explaining that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
We had looked at that figure, the figure that was allocated by the county commissioners, and has been, in roughly those same figures for, as far as the amounts that were given to us by the general fund to support those programs, not their actual cost of those programs.
And I think that's where we had some difference. While if the programs were closed, while the general fund would have saved $503,000, the other sources would have evaporated or went someplace else. So the savings would have been
transfers to make up other shortages within the budget. That's what we were trying to clean up.
So, but again, we did have dialogue on this 300,000. I did talk to Charlie Neff about that, and I think that this was a pleasant surprise, and there hasn't been enough time to really have further discussions with Doug and his superiors. But I think we can have them in the future and see where we can go with that, if that's suitable.
Yeah.
To the board. I would like to, once again, thank Dr. Crow, Dr. Fisher, Elaine, Charlie, those folks that really stepped to the plate and have sort of need for these services in Lorain County. Hopefully, a year from now, we'll have figured out a more permanent solution.
Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Can we finish up a couple minutes here, and we'll just get this thing going to the 10 o'clock hearing, as long as we don't start earlier.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
We can
Do we
finish
do we need a resolution to accept that?
I just want to could I make one comment?
Sure, Joe.
While Mr. Neff and Dr. Crow are here, I just wanted to, on behalf of the prosecutor's office, extend our appreciation to Charlie and the mental health people. We have to attend mental health hearings, and oftentimes they're out of county. In fact, some of them are in Sagamore Hills. It requires our attorneys to travel an hour there and an hour back.
For a 5-minute hearing.
Right, and through Charlie's efforts and Judge Walther's efforts at probate court, we have arranged to do this by video teleconferencing, and it's saving our staff a a lot of time as well as travel expense for the county. It's a little bit difficult to do hearings even though they're brief in that manner, but I want to extend my appreciation to Charlie and the mental health people and Judge Walther. It's a really big assistance to our staff. And as I said, as Dr. Crow is here, and you mentioned Dr. Fisher with DD, all our social service agencies have been helping us to a great deal, recognizing our cuts, and they deserve, I mean, what we're doing here is just an example of the way they attempt to cooperate with us. And it's going to help us. Again, I remind the commissioners at the end of this week, my support staff is going from 4 lawyers to 3, with Scott Saracen leaving, and at the end of the month we will be down to 2. So their support and cooperation is extremely helpful.
Thank you. Jim, E911 update while we're out here before we start the public
Before we
hearing.
do that, do we need a resolution to accept that grant money?
I think we can work the mechanics out in the future. I think this was just an announcement today. Do we actually have to, if somebody leaves like $1 on the doorstep, do we need a resolution? No.
You never know. I
You
mean,
could do it just in case, and,
Certainly
For
you
a
could.
one-year thing.
Sure.
yeah.
I mean, so then you know it's a one-year thing, correct?
Right, so let me point out, though, that the funds are restricted, okay? And they, they have a stated purpose, so, they'll be held restricted, and we'll work it out with Doug on the mechanics.
So if you don't make a motion.
I was just going to ask a question. Is a resolution necessary for you to accept that grant?
That was my
That's what we were
question.
just asking.
I don't know. I'm just making sure.
Okay.
How about we do this? How about we wait and we figure it out?
You're right.
It's good news. Let's enjoy the good
Thanks
news.
for the 308K.
Okay.
We'll do the paperwork next week if we need it, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So commissioners report, is that where we're going?
We can, yes.
Well, 911, I thought you wanted to.
We can do either one. We can do the commissioner's report. One of us can ask the
Alright.
question, or you want to give us an update on 911 before we
Go
start
ahead.
Commissioner Krakowski's report?
Well, it seems like every time we went a mile further, we had a mile to go. I am pleased to tell you that we will begin dispatching services over at the E911 Center on the 18th of December. And that's the date's firm. We've concluded all the pieces that we need to, and I believe that the transition will occur. There's still a few obstacles that we're going to be working out, but we had to draw that line in the sand, and we had to stop allowing some unanticipated occurrences to limit our ability to do that. So that's a milestone for us. Once we're all in the same room, then we're going to start blending the training and the SOPs over the next several months, and we're going to have some team building and training skills. You'll see when we go into executive session a list of those dispatchers from the Sheriff's Department and some new hires that have passed the scrutiny of the interview teams and have been recommended to make the next level of this change with us. So I think that things are going okay. They're a little bit behind what schedule we established because of some unpredicted or unanticipated personnel issues that are occurred. But the sheriff and the Board of Commissioners should be commended for getting to this point. We still have a few other things I think we need to work out, but I'm confident that the collaboration between the two elected departments has been superior, and you face these challenges and come up with solutions. So 18th December, at least we'll be under the same roof, operating out of the same platform, and then talking about blending the jobs into one job. And hopefully that'll take, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 months of training and new procedures, maybe less.
Wonderful.
And in the
Nice job.
meantime, we have 3 new deputies on the road, or deputies that were called back, and we're saving money in the general fund at the same time, so that's good news. Commissioner's report?
Yep.
Okay. Well, this morning, Commissioner Kalo and I attended our Team Lorain County Board meeting. It was kind of lengthy, about an hour and a half, but a lot of good dialogue about Jobs Ohio with Team NEO. Yesterday, Mr. Cortez and I met with a local rescue group from Lorain County and to talk about better ideas and suggestions for our spay and neuter program. It was a good meeting, and this group is going to check to see if there's any grant money available for our dog pound to help us boost that spay and neuter program that we have in place right now. Monday, I attended my monthly Goodwill board meeting, and they exceeded their goal of placing employees in jobs. They placed 158 people in Lorain County, all throughout Lorain County, into jobs. And they attribute their success to the 2 job fairs that they had this past year. They also exceeded the amount of one-way trips that the Goodwheels van that the commissioners donated to Goodwill, donated to them. They anticipated about 2,900 rides, and they actually provided 3,151 rides. They have kept 276,000 pounds out of our landfill this year. And they are taking cardboard. I didn't want anybody to forget that. And please don't say to yourself, this jacket is ripped, or my pants have a stain, or this bedding is old and nasty. Nobody's going to buy this at the store. Please continue to donate all those items to Goodwill, because what they don't sell, they bundle up, and they recycle that as well. So, and that keeps more items out of the landfill, which ultimately extends the life. Friday, I attended my Ohio Public Works Integrating Committee meeting, and we authorized the list to be submitted to, the road improvement list to be submitted to Columbus. And I was also voted by the members of the board to be on the NRAC committee. Steve Hambley from Medina County chairs that committee, and we're hoping for funding from the state for that. And it stands for National Resources Assistance Council. So I'm really happy to be on that board. On Thursday, I attended my first Lorain County Community Corrections Board, and it was a good dialogue between all the people that have to do with corrections and how we're going to operate since the sales tax failed. And actually, it wasn't good news, but we're going to do the best that we can. That's my only report.
Well done.
Yeah. Busy week.
Yeah, exactly. It's been one of those. Met with Jim Rakakis, former treasurer of Cuyahoga County, and our county treasurer, Dan Telerik, putting together a package asking Nord Foundation to help with some funding in regards to setting up a land bank in Lorain County. Just a lot of questions from Lorain County's part. It's going on all over Ohio, though. They've got a package where Michigan started at first. I believe it'll be very beneficial. I briefed Commissioner Kokoski because she had an interest in this. And we've got the 2 new city mayors of Lorain and Elyria very interested in this. So let's hope we move forward on that in the next 90 to 120 days. Also did the Public Works Committee with Commissioner Kokoski. Again, the projects I think I saw them in the paper.
They were
Really?
a big
Okay.
list of them.
Yeah. Also attended grand opening of the Cleveland Clinic, their new facility in Avon. As always, Mayor Smith had kind words to say about Nowaka, but it's going forward anyway with the interchange. It was a fantastic facility, great job, great attendance. Also, Judge Walter and I attended the 4-H reverse raffle on Saturday evening to benefit the 4-H program as they go raising money. It was a sellout. Dr. Linda Fox did a great job. They had great auction items, and it was a great evening. Also, I have been on the phone working on my proposal. I spoke to Medina County Commissioner Steve Hambley is on board. Conversations with Erie, Lucas County, Montgomery County, Deb Lieberman. I'm actually putting together a package. We'll be at the commissioners' meetings this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in Columbus, and I plan to present the package to the Board of Directors meeting of the proposal to take 1% back of the 5.5%, which is still half of the original intent of state sales tax at 40% to local governments. So that was my week. Commissioner Williams?
Well, what I've been looking at is the 2013 budget, and I'm just wondering if the board's going to want to go through and do additional cuts this year in anticipation for the 2013 deficit. I know that there's some projections, high projections, that we might be able to come in, but we're still looking at a $3.5 million deficit. I would like to work on with the board to cut out $3.5 million of next year's budget. I just was wondering what your thoughts were.
I think Jim or somebody had sent me an email stating that that was your request, and I had emailed back stating that I would rather wait until mid-January to start those discussions, since we'll be looking at actual carryover numbers and true numbers rather than guesstimates. I don't want to, lay off people and then find out, oh, we had more money than we anticipated. So I'd rather wait until mid-January, and then we could have those discussions.
And I agree with Commissioner Kokosia. Let's wait till the final numbers. We're doing a quarterly temporary budget anyway, Tom.
Yeah.
So it's a couple, 3 weeks into the new year.
Yeah. I just know with the $10.5 million, even if it comes down and we hit all our high numbers that we're looking at,
We're still short.
We're
Right.
still
Without
short.
a doubt. Yeah, it's going to have to come next year.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we're not going to have to cut, but I'd like to know for sure where we're at before we, put people's livelihoods on the line. So just
Yeah,
be
we'll have the
patient.
final
Yeah.
budget, because actually I met with the budget director the other day. We'll probably have to do an advance anyway to the jail operations based on tax as it rolls into us. And actually, I got another issue while you brought that up. I met with Judy Nedwick the other day, and she's having a major issue in regards to supply cost. She emailed me some language, but it looks like because of all the oil and gas leases that are coming in, it's a big move now for people to lease out their land in case of possible fracking coming up. She's looking at $80,000 shortage in toner for next year to run the copying machines, and she's laid off 3 people after our budget cuts. So we either have to do something with the computer fund, because the state of Ohio has not authorized raising her fees at all, her split. But should we collect now, Jim? Do we collect $2 now against the fees, and we put we collect $4, put $1 in the computer fund, correct?
Talking about the recorders fees?
Recorders, yes.
Yes, I believe that's
It's 4 and
accurate.
1.
4 and 1.
Yeah, she's asking for 3 and 1.
Yep.
1 to us, 3 to her, I think, to make her cost, but she's got an $80,000 shortage in toner for next year. And she's already done her layoff, so it's something
Yeah.
we've got to look into.
I'm concerned. I mean, we
Well,
only cut her
and-
$50,000, and she laid 3 people off,
Right.
and we were going to cut the domestic $500,000. And I mean,
Well-
luckily they have money where they can pull from other places. But Judy, I
That
don't
doesn't
think
make
has
sense,
money.
though. To cut 3 people for $50,000,
Yeah,
there
I
had to
didn't
be
understand
something
that.
else.
Well, I
Well,
think
she had to cover some of her equipment account. I mean,
Okay.
when we've cut, I mean, it's still been a shortfall.
Right.
Those things haven't stopped accumulating for costs,
But
so.
she doesn't have funds from other places to
Right.
pull, and
Well,
I'm
well-
very concerned that she had to lay 3 people
Well,
off.
well, let me say this. First off, the equipment fund has been requested a couple of years, and we haven't
Correct.
changed it. However, if the money goes into the general fund and you feel the need, you can offset that and return some of that
Correct.
to her. So you have some modicum of control.
Well, the reason I brought that up out here is Tom was talking about de-appropriating for next year, and I said we got an issue that she's going to have a hard time
Right.
operating.
But I understand that, but also in a response to Commissioner Kokoski, you're right. I mean, they got a small budget and they're doing this layoff, but there is no money. So whether it's
Right.
3 and a small staff or 10 and a large staff, the cuts have been proportional. And the responsibilities are proportional. So if one department's losing 6, but they have a bigger department, they're still in a greater, and if you balance it out, they're still as hard hit as a smaller department are, because they have more work to do. So we're going to be experiencing more and more. I don't know where it's going to stop. I think we need to continue to have dialogue out here. We continue to need to talk about it. If we run out of toner and we can't do our job, guess what? Run out of toner, can't do our job. There is no money. Because to say that we have to find $80,000 for Judy because she needs toner, okay, who isn't going to get toner in another department, or
Right.
or paper, or something else? So people still haven't really come to the realization that these apples have been divided out and there's nothing left hanging in the tree. So we're going to face some significant challenges next year that we've never had to face. I don't think we'll have a year with a problem with liquidity, but going forward into 2013, we could be maybe looking at liquidity issues. And I guarantee you in 2012, we're going to see a bond downgrade. All right, there's no stopping it this time. So, we're going to have to find very, very unique and innovative ways of delivering services, but a good portion of that is going to be reduced services.
Well, in the case of the recorder's office, so that's one of our revenue-producing things. If he doesn't have toner and can't make a copy, we can't collect the $28 on the first page. So.
And I completely understand.
Right. It's not like just providing a service when we send a check over to the jail that's not generating us any revenue.
True enough.
So,
I think that's where we need to have the talks and go through and start to make the cuts. I mean, I understand that you want to wait for some numbers, but at the same time, we know there's going to be a deficit.
right, but we've already sent the letters out to you. Probably should have brought this ahead of time.
I
sending
did
the
bring it
letters
up
out.
ahead of time, and it was a decision, and correct me
I
if
don't
I'm wrong,
remember
thought
bringing
you
it
were,
up here.
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. Tom.
that I agree, I said that we should go through and make additional cuts. You said, let's get the letters out, and then we'll look at additional cuts.
Okay.
I was assuming that was going to be this year, just because we do have a huge deficit coming up. And if the numbers, there's someone brought up there, well, we might be able to generate around $7 million on the high end. That's still leaving a $3.5 million deficit.
Right.
So that's why I said, well, let's take a look at the $3.5 million, let's get that knocked out, and then we can look at the quarterly for 2012 and make additional cuts. The thing that I don't want to see is that we go in and we cover 2012, and in 2013 we say, hey, look, we're looking at still a $3.5 to $6 million deficit. Now we're making larger cuts in 2013. So, all right, that's in my report.
Madam Clerk, can we go into the,
Yeah, board correspondence first.
move the reading be waived?
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Thank you for your patience this morning.
Public hearing. Pam is going to start us, I think?
Yes.
Pam?
Where's Pam? There's Pam. Okay.
Go ahead, Pam, your show.
Good morning to everyone.
Morning.
We are here this morning to discuss fare increases for 2012 through 2016. And we're also here to discuss route changes. The commissioners had been presented with a proposal for cutting $50,000 from our budget. And the proposal includes our contractor, First Transit, would be helping to reduce some of the costs by $25,000 on their end. The second idea is to decrease one of our dial-a-ride vehicles. We currently have 2 vehicles that provide service in the morning, and there's 2 vehicles in the afternoon. So we would just take 1 vehicle away. So that was all we were looking for to make up the $50,000 decrease. I had also provided to the commissioners some additional route changes that could save, and this would be affecting the routes, but I think it's going to be a good effect, meaning we will have 1 bus starting at 5:30 in the morning instead of 6 o'clock, and that bus will start in Elyria at the transfer point, and we will have the other bus starting at 6 o'clock at the transfer point. Currently, the system works where the buses start in Lorain, they end in Lorain. It takes 2 hours to get all the way around. So we have 2 buses in Lorain, 2 buses in Elyria. That's the way it goes all day long. We've got issues with that because there's a lot of people that do need to transfer from one Elyria bus to another. So what we are proposing is to take and have 1 bus go to Lorain, do the route in Lorain. Then the other bus is going to do the route in Elyria. So that way there'll be coverage within Lorain and Elyria all day long, and it's an hour trip. So that's basically what we have provided as far as that. We're actually going to be saving a total of $114,000.
Commissioners, with regard to the proposed cuts, first of all, I want to thank First Transit for restructuring their workforce to tease out some savings that were not available to us, so that they have worked with us on their level of delivery of services to reduce their overall cost that are transmitted back to us. Secondly, Pam, who has spent numerous hours looking at the map, trying to figure out how we can continue to have transit with a reduced amount of budgets. But I will suggest this to you. Some of these cuts will virtually put us out of the transit business. I think we need a bifurcated approach where we need to increase revenues and restructure some services. While the goal was to present you with a package of cuts that potentially could cover the whole reduction, because if we lose 50,000, we lose 100,000. Let me state that clearly again. We lose 50 in local support, we lose $100,000 in funding. So this is not a $50,000 cut, this is a $100,000 cut. It could be more than that if some of that match was used for maintenance, which we get 80% of the maintenance dollars. So if we wanted to be, very out on the deep end, we could say that we're losing additional funds because that money was used to match maintenance, and it's not just 50-50, it's 80 cents, okay? But I'm being, as fair as I can, just saying we would lose operating money, not maintenance money. So we had to, the task was to find $100,000 in savings. This will deplete transit to a point where we're really not in the transit business, and we'll be challenged to prove that we are. Therefore, my recommendation to you is going to be to look at some kind of process that takes some of these proposed cuts and also raise the fees so that we can still demonstrate that we're a viable candidate to stay in the transit business. We have to stay viable, or as much as we want, somebody else is going to say we're no longer in transit, we're hobbying. And if we lose our certification, then restarting up could be very challenging with the FTA. I'll have more to say on that as you go through your public hearing, but that's going to be my recommendation to you, that you find a bifurcated solution to this rather than just cut cost or just increase fares. Okay?
Pam, do you want to discuss the fare increases that we're talking about?
Sure. The fare increases, what we are going to do, we're looking at a 5-year increase, which we have done in the past. This year is the last of that 5-year. So we're going to go on a 5-year basis again. We are going to leave the increase in a place where the fares will not increase no less than 25 cents. But they're not going to increase any more than $1. And then that would be from 2012 to 2016. So the biggest question is, how much do we raise the fares? One piece of information I've put together is showing in increments of $25 or 25 cents. So we've got 25, 50, 75, and $1 increase. If we were to increase the fares by 25 cents, that would give us approximately an additional $16,000. If we increase it by 50 cents, then we will increase our fare revenue by $31,000. 75 cents, we're going to increase it to about $46,000, and with $1, we would increase it about $61,000. So definitely, by increasing the fares, we will increase the revenue, and it's just basically how much can we increase it to where we don't lose a whole lot of ridership as well.
Pam, the 50 cents, you said it would generate 31,000.
Yes.
But then we also get the 31,000 match, so it's actually a 61,000. Or have you already doubled it?
Now, actually, you're going to receive the way it calculates out is you have your total expenses, and you automatically take off your fare box. The balance from there is 50% from the federal government and then 50% local. So in effect, the more you raise the fare, the less you're going to end up needing from the federal government, and then less you would need locally.
And we can do a staggered amount. It doesn't have to be a set amount. We can actually peg the years.
Correct.
Like in this case right now, because transit in such difficult shape, we can raise 61 grand by raising it $1 and then make 13, 14, 15, 16 increases a quarter after that on top. We don't
Correct.
have to do a fixed same number for 5 years.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Discussion?
Well,
Commissioners?
maybe you want to hear from the public first?
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I was going to see if the commissioners had anything to say first before I open it to the floor. No? Fine. All right. Well, we'll open it to the floor. Those of you who'd like to speak.
Please state your name and address.
There's a list of people that
Doesn't
want to
matter.
speak.
Just please state your name and address when you come up to the podium.
My name is Kiana McIntosh. My address is 325 Furnace Street in Elyria. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to give the public a voice. I think that what Ms. Pam stated this morning is certainly some form of a solution. I think it was important to express what Mr. James said, the aspect of finding some form of a solution rather than just initiating more of a cost. As a person who actually rides the transit, having something is better than nothing at all. But if that means that on down the line, right now we appease it, and then on down the line we don't have anything, then the mission of what Lorain County Transit will not, it states that it increases opportunities to enhance independence and the quality of life in Lorain County, and we can't do that without a transit system. I am from Washington, D.C., so that I know that transit systems do work. I don't know the answer to how to make the one work in Lorain County, but it's definitely needed for those persons who need to get back and forth to work. I work and I also attend LCCC Community College, and I'm also a student senator there. So I'm not just here on behalf of myself, I'm here on behalf of Lorain County Community College and the student body there, and there are numbers down, and I'm sure Oberlin College is experiencing the same thing. But it's a necessity. So when you really look at your cuts and the different resolutions that you're looking into, I hope and pray that you look into everybody, I'm sure, is experiencing some kind of financial burden, but for those who really ride the transit system, it's very imperative for us to do what we need to do to enhance, to get out of those burdens.
Let me ask you what you think about the fare increases. What's your feelings on that?
I am one who is able to pay the dollar increase, but again, it's not just me that it's affecting. It may be persons who are not able, and I was one of those persons at one time who was not able, and I received some assistance from this office, and that exists. However, is that technically helping the overall deficit? Probably not. So I would maybe start at the 50 cents and do it in increments like that for persons who may not be able to pay the dollar increase, because right now it's $2.35. So taking it $1 would be $3.35. That's, to a degree, you could possibly get in a cab, and ride in a cab for that price. But maybe 50 cents to start. I don't know. But whatever the solution is for the time, just try to think of, I would ask, beg, and plead that you try to think of a solution to keep it in Lorain County, because it's needed.
Yes. Thank you for your input.
My name is Sharon Pearson. I'm the program coordinator for the Oberlin Project. located at 23 Eric Nord Way, Suite 9, Oberlin, Ohio. I have a statement here that I'd like to read that I also will send over to Pam. Actually, I have a copy for you right now. The Oberlin Project is a partnership between the City of Oberlin, Oberlin College, along with private and institutional partners to improve the resilience, prosperity, and sustainability of our community. The Oberlin Project's aim is to revitalize the local economy, eliminate carbon emissions, restore local agriculture, food supply, and forestry, and create a new sustainable base for economic and community development. Although transportation was identified as an issue under our Energy Policy Committee, it has surfaced as a very important issue in the Oberlin community and with work within our economic workforce development and education. As a result, we are in the midst of developing a transportation committee to explore ways to encourage Oberlin residents to use alternative transportation methods, reduce single riders using gas-powered vehicles, and encourage residents to share a ride and use vehicles powered by renewable resources. Although we encourage walking, bicycle riding, ride sharing, and are researching electric charging stations for electric vehicles, there is an apparent need for transit service in Oberlin and throughout the county. We realize that when money is tight, the Lorain County Commissioners have the heartbreaking job of deciding what services have to be reduced or cut. However, when additional funding sources, such as casino tax revenue funds, become available, we urge Lorain County Commissioners to consider using these funds for increasing county transit services. While we realize that there are many places that these funds could be used, it seems that such funds could be used to help the entire county, which can assist with economic growth and generate additional tax revenue for the county. It is my understanding that such dedicated funds to countywide transit service can be matched sometimes 3-to-1 with state and federal funds. The Oberlin Project believes in building and strengthening our community through education to support alternative transportation methods such as transit service. This type of transportation will help county residents save money and reduce stress. In addition, using transit services can reduce traffic congestion. So we encourage the Lorain County Commissioners to consider using all of the casino tax revenue funds to restore the Lorain County Transit Service to full capacity, along with converting gas-powered vehicles over to vehicles using renewable resources such as biodiesel, fuel, and/or electric. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Arbogast. I'm the Executive Director of Oberlin Community Services, which is at 285 South Professor. And I am very interested to hear that Commissioner Kokoski is involved with Goodwill. As an agency, I work very closely with Goodwill and familiar with the Good Wheels program, and am thrilled with the job fairs that they have had in our county. The problem in the southern part of the county is that even if you find that employment, it is very challenging to get to your place of employment. I work with City Manager Eric Norenberg to raise the funds to hire LCT for the 2 times a week that we are able to have routes in the city of Oberlin. Unfortunately, 2 times a week doesn't get you to and from your job. It does help. I mean, we are greatly appreciative that we are able to hire you all. It's a challenge to come up with that money, but we at least get people to the grocery store, to medical appointments. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, as you probably know through Goodwill, we need people to get to and from jobs in order to have economic recovery in the county. I echo what Sharon just commented about in terms of casino funding. That would be perfect to put towards transportation in our county. And I want to tell you that the funding that we do have, it's somewhere around $30,000 a year that we're trying to come up with to hire the LCT for 2 times a week. That gets people about 200 trips a month. So it's helping, but it really isn't enough. And I know as you're facing cuts, it's easy to say, well, Oberlin's got it figured out. Let's not look at that. But this is only Oberlin, and this isn't Wellington, and Wellington is also challenged. And we tried to get Wellington to join with us in this, and they couldn't come up with the funding themselves to join that. So consider the southern part of the county as well when you're looking at this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, I have some stories of people who were not able to be here primarily due to transportation issues.
Okay.
And I want to share that with you. So do I give that to the clerk? 'Cause
Yes.
I want to make sure that you have them.
Well,
They would have liked to have been here if they could.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
You know, that is sort of the dilemma. For people to be part of this I'm sorry. My name is Deborah Nebel. I'm the Director of Public Policy for LEAP. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I will. LEAP. I've got people in the chorus here. Okay, LEAP stands for Linking Employment Abilities and Potential. And we too, and this is why I wanted to follow up what Linda had said, it is very important part. About half of our work is about finding employment for people with disabilities. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the unemployment rate, while it is dismal for most Americans, hovering at 9%, I think in Lorain County maybe 10, it is close to 18% for people with disabilities. That is shocking, but it shouldn't surprise us. Because unless you have wraparound services that can help you to get to your job, to get to interviews, to be able to purchase the necessities you need so that you can be presentable on the job, that you can take care of your family, you really are starting from ground zero. We as a community do better when everybody is able to be lifted up. And the message today is to the commissioners, I would like you to think about how do we look at economic development in a way that also includes transportation. In our opinion, it's not a social service. It's not one of many priorities. I'd compare it to our public utilities. In a modern society, people need affordable, accessible, and available transportation to participate, to work, and to pay taxes, to go to the doctor, for all the reasons you're going to hear personal stories of people. And it has, I've heard, from a speaker previously that your system is already cut to the bone. Your dial-a-ride service doesn't help people get to work with significant disabilities. It might help people get to a doctor's appointment if they can schedule a couple weeks in advance. We really need to address this issue, and I would just ask you to work with the community. The Lorain County Transit Coalition and many of the people in this room are willing to work with you on solutions. Use us. Let us help you to do that. And I hope that as you do, as the economic situation improves, which we all pray and hope for, that you will think about ways to get a designated funding source for transportation. Maybe it isn't a tax like we have another office in Cuyahoga County. So we have a designated funding stream out of our taxing authority that supports the RTA. Maybe that isn't going to work here. But I have heard the conversation of, I've heard from the county commissioners, the whole organization, that that the county is due to receive perhaps $1 million, depending on the timing, in 2012 from the casino funds. Maybe $5 million by 2013. That would be an excellent way to begin to make an investment in the economic development of this community and in transportation. And I think one last thing in closing is I just wanted to respectfully clarify that as I heard Pam speak, in order to pull down, there is federal money, less state money. We've got to work on that together to get the state to make a stronger commitment on public transportation. But the rates are separated. They cannot be used for match. They go to the side. And so when you ask a commissioner about how does that affect people, I think you have to look at the economic effect on individuals. It won't make that big of a difference to your transportation system in the grand scheme of things, whether people have more, as people often say, more skin in the game. For people, 50 cents, $1 is a lot of money. Poverty is growing in this county, unfortunately. It's growing in our surrounding counties. If we're going to make it as a county and as a people, we all have to rise together. Thank you for the time. I don't know if you have any questions. No. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is William Roy Stenson. In the community, they call me Roy. So if I see you, please call me Roy. I'd like to piggyback on.
Excuse me, Roy.
I'm
Where are you
sorry.
from?
I'm sorry. I'm from Elyria, and I'm a volunteer with LEAP. I previously was deputy warden at the state prison here in Grafton and Lorain. With regards to LEAP, there are a great number of people who rely on public transportation to go to and from the programs that LEAP provide, or the services that LEAP provide. I'm able to provide transportation for myself, but these people can't shoulder the burden of the increase in the transit fares. I mean, a drastic increase as $1 right away is pretty much hard, especially with people with fixed incomes. Having been a restaurateur and a bar owner, I see it all the time. Not in the bar, but in the restaurant business. I gave discounts all the time to people who are on fixed incomes, free meals during the holiday season, so forth and so on. But, you know, we've all had to deal with budgets and have to do more with less. As Governor Vonovich said to us in the prisons, we had to do our jobs, but with less money. And the same applies here. Public service, the transit system is pretty much a public service, especially with the regard to fares. Taxis are just outrageous these days. But there's another element that we aren't thinking about, and I don't believe Pam has thought about it. And that element is the number of inmates re-entering to Lorain County. There's about approximately, I did research yesterday, 500 inmates being released back into Lorain County from the 4 surrounding prisons. Northeast Pre-Release Center with the women, the 3 in Grafton, Lorain Correctional, Grafton Correctional, and the North Coast Correctional Treatment Facility. 500 inmates coming back into the community every month. If you attend, if any of you have attended the Citizen Circle, that's done in conjunction with the prison reentry program, the number one issue for guys coming back into the community, transportation. Number one issue, transportation. We provided vouchers for those people, but it's kind of expensive. It's very expensive. Once they use those vouchers and they have to start using transportation on their own when they find jobs or go to school, vocational schools, then that burden falls back on us because they recidivate. The rate for recidivism in Lorain County is about 59%. That's a high total. And that jump came from 2001 to 2010. The numbers for 2011 aren't in yet, but that's a large number of guys going back to prison who do become another burden on the taxpayer rather than a taxpayer. We'd rather see those people being taxpayers than tax burdens. So having said that, I would like to suggest that we do some creative budgeting and look at other areas to raise or to raise more monies to keep the transit system in effect. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Megan Shee from Oberlin, Ohio, with my guide Pepita, and we're here to speak about the transportation situation. I have been coming to these meetings for 5 or 6 years. I'm going to be 74 years old next month. A year from now, I will have 3/4 of a century in my life. And I have never seen such drastic changes and takeaways from the services of the people in this country as I have seen in the last 20, 30 years. I don't know if this is going to matter, but Oberlin has been courageous in keeping our bus going twice a week. I don't understand the lack of interest in transportation. Last October, we had a meeting, and there was a gentleman there who spoke about the tax. and why we should vote for it. And he said it was for the prisons. And I said, well, why should I vote for it? It's not for transportation. He said, oh, there might be transportation for it. So Oberlin again voted for this, and Oberlin was majority for this tax increase. But we get nothing back. And the southern part of the county, this gentleman mentioned, it's true. We lack in a lot of things. The biggest thing we lack in is in services to get around, to get to doctors, and to get to jobs. Okay? I thought about going to work, maybe getting some part-time work, earn a little money now that I'm retired. I couldn't get myself to Walmart or to Goodwill or to anywhere else without a bus every day. So I said, well, I guess that's that. So if you want us to pay taxes, if you want income to be improved, then help us with the transportation business. We have 50 people in my building, many of them on small incomes, very small incomes, below or just above the poverty level, which you know is really pretty low, $11,000 or something like that a year. And the problem is they could never even afford to pay more for their bus. If we had to, we would do it. But since there are income possibilities, with the casinos, we should get that money. That money should come here to get people to the doctor, get their jobs, to their jobs, and where they need to be for whatever reasons, shopping, whatever. And I do encourage you to consider that $5 million, that $1 million, to revamp our transportation system in this area. You've got, I don't know how many people in Lorain County, 100,000, 200,000, whatever.
300.
300, 2 buses? Shame on you. I'm sorry, shame on you. That is impossible. And I'm angry because every time I come here, something's taken away from us. And I'm tired of it. I understand the deficit, but we've got to serve our people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Meyer. I'm a student at Oberlin College. Currently, I live at 167 Woodland Street, I think. As I said, I'm a student senator at Oberlin College and also the chair of Ohio Public Interest Research Group. And we have a public transit coalition on campus, and a lot of our students are here today with us, and we've collected a bunch of stories, and we'd like to share those with you today.
Okay.
I actually have copies. May I turn them to the...
Yes, to the clerk, please. Thank you.
While you're passing those out, Mr. Cortez, do we have a contract intact right now with Oberlin to continue their bus route for next year?
I have been in discussions with Oberlin, and it is currently my understanding we're going to continue those services. They have partnered, and I did hear somebody earlier say that they were working with the city manager towards funding. They were a little short, I think, from Oberlin. They got some outside resources. We also agreed to share any advertising revenues with them on that particular bus line. So I'm confident saying that we're at least going to keep that minimum amount of service that was provided last year with our partnership with Oberlin. Remembering that when they partner with us, they leverage dollar for dollar.
Right.
Because we access the FTA dollars. So Oberlin brings $25,000, that they can spend $50,000, and so it's a good partnership, and it's worked well, and I'm glad it's going to be there next year. Also need to point out that Vermillion is also keeping their service. They weren't able to increase the funding, but they're trying to continue with the amount they have now. So we'll be doing a partnership with them also next year.
So with the changes in the routes, does that play a role in Oberlin's bus routes? Theirs is going to stay the same with these changes?
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that before we went on, because I've heard from a lot of people from Oberlin, so, okay.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Mia Young. I'm also from Oberlin. As Alyssa was saying, I work on with a coalition of students. In the fall, we conducted a survey to see if there was interest amongst the students for increased public transit. And one of the fields on our survey form was just open for comments, and some of the students actually told us their personal stories of trying to get by with the transit that exists. So I'm just going to share a couple of those for you. This is from an anonymous student. When I was traveling home for fall break, the only affordable method of transportation to Chicago available to me was the train. Unfortunately, the only time the train left the Cleveland station towards Chicago was at 3 a.m. Airport Oberlin Shuttle takes students to the airport, not to the more central Cleveland area, so their last shuttle was at 5 p.m. I ordered a taxi online with a service that guaranteed the lowest prices. When the driver arrived at 1:30 a.m., he told me he had to charge an extra $20 because he was traveling outside his county to pick me up. Then, as we drove for about 40 minutes into Cleveland, I watched the price meter steadily rise, slowly realizing that neither the service nor I had made an accurate estimate of how much the taxi would cost. When we arrived, the meter read $112.50, and the driver informed me that this was without the extra $20 charge and tip. I had to rush to an ATM as he impatiently waited with my luggage, and I paid him a total of $150. He looked at the money, scowled at me, gave me my luggage, then drove off. I can comfortably say that a more affordable, more convenient means of transportation to the greater Cleveland area for breaks, weekend nights, and other nightly events would be greatly appreciated. This is another anonymous testimony from a student with health concerns. They write, I had gone undiagnosed with a chronic health issue since I was 7 years old. About 2 months into my first semester at Oberlin, my symptoms began to worsen. While at home for Christmas break, my family and I sought out specialized medical attention. I was advised to maintain a strict treatment plan and had received accommodations through disability services. My parents were worried about letting me return to school, but I assured them if I needed special medical care, it would be easy enough to get it, since the school seemed to be responsive to my needs. My symptoms began to improve, but soon they returned. While student health is very beneficial for certain things, I needed specialized care. I found it extremely difficult to get to medical appointments specific to my illness. Beyond these appointments, I had to reschedule several other non-related health appointments over and over because I was unable to find transportation. Most recently, I had been feeling extremely ill, and student health advised me to meet with a doctor in Elyria. They explained they had no way of transporting me, but recommended I call my class dean. He asked if I knew anyone with a car, then suggested a car service. I have one friend with a car, but I have no license, and felt uncomfortable forcing a student to bring me to various appointments according to my schedule, jeopardizing his education. Several of the cab services listed on Oberlin's own website told me they do not travel to Oberlin. Others asked for a $60 fee to get to Lorain. I feel it is extremely dangerous to have such limited forms of transportation on campus, keeping students from access to physical and mental health facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Valerie Hartnett, 91 Maple Street, Oberlin, Ohio. I'm going to use myself for a testimony. I am on Section 8, Lorain Metropolitan Housing, and I was told, Val, you have a certain appointment to be here, and I could not find transportation, and you have twice to do this, or you lose your housing. Isn't that something to be on Section 8 for 5 years? If I do not make that appointment because I have lack of transportation, I lose my housing. That means I'm homeless on the street, and that is unfair to me. If I don't have transportation to get to maybe social service, I lose my health care. But why put me in that position? Because I work, I vote, and I pay my taxes too. So I just want to say, think about everyone in this community, because we are one. Because you never know, you might find yourself in my same position. And a lot of people are losing their jobs. I used to work at Lorain Products. I used to work at May Credit. Right now, my next step in my life is economic security. And I realize that I can no longer stay in Lorain County because I do not have the transportation. I believe in working. I believe in providing for my daughter. I was here last year. I talked about my daughter couldn't go to LCC. But thank the Lord, my baby's in Louisiana. She's going to school every day. I have to leave Lorain County because I need to work. Now, I love to work. I could work 50 hours a week if I could. That'd be revenue for you guys, tax money for you guys. But how would I survive? I have to maneuver. I have a right to economic security. I have that right. So we need transportation. It's for everyone. It's for the elderly. Think about, we have the transit the dollar ride, but it doesn't go all of Lorain County. There are some people on the east side that cannot get to their appointments. Is that not correct? There's only certain places that the dollar ride goes. Why is that? The dollar ride a couple weeks ago, there was 3 of them. They had no customers all day long. If you service all of Lorain County, you will make that revenue. I just don't understand it. I used to live in Los Angeles. I don't get this. It seemed like the dog is chasing the tail around and around and over and over. When I got here 10 years ago, it was only 2 buses. It's like we're not progressing. It's like we're going backwards. And we need progress in this county. If not, you will lose people and you will lose revenue. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Can you address that?
I will.
Okay.
I'll be certain, yeah. But let me explain the dollar ride situation, and I agree with you. So I'm just going to explain it so that folks, you can sit, that other folks understand. At one time, years ago, we did provide dollar ride throughout the complete county. And we had many dollar ride vans, which is officially called paratransit on the road. But with the reduction in funding and the reduction in route services, we went to the minimum that's required by FTA off of our fixed route, and we're at the minimum times required by the FTA. If you run a fixed route system, you are required to run paratransit, but you're only required to run it within 2 miles, 3/4 of a mile of your fixed route system. In order to run that fixed route system, we have to offer that. That's why there's times when we're not capturing people in that small area to have the buses on the road. Now, we expand that area. Once again, though, costs expand because, yes, more people do ride. You're right. But we don't recover enough money on the dollar ride to justify the expense. It's a very vicious cycle we're in. But I concur with you that the paratransit was one of our good services when we had a bigger fixed route and we were capturing it in the whole county. But that should explain why it isn't going out to the whole county. We're just meeting the minimums under FTA.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? No, same hearing, David.
Good morning.
My name is Amanda Woodrum. I'm a researcher for an organization called Policy Matters Ohio. We're a nonprofit research organization focused on issues facing working families in Ohio. In the past, I've also coordinated a group called Safe Transit Now, Move Ohio Forward, which some of you might be familiar because the county commissioners that you have actually endorsed that group. And that group was calling on the state government to do a better job funding public transportation. And as you well know, they've done a lousy job. Less than 1% of our state's transportation dollars, and we're talking about billions of dollars spent every single year, less than 1% of those go towards public transit purposes. And that, of course, has put you in the position repeatedly, again and again, where state transit funds are cut again, and so you have to respond. And then again, and you add that now to the existing situation where you've had additional state budget cuts in other areas, and you're forced to make another round of cuts. But I think what folks have emphasized today, that today's cuts aren't the first. They're the last in a series of devastating cuts to the system. But one thing I really want to emphasize without repeating what everybody else has already said today is that transportation is the backbone of our economy. It connects people to where they need to go, whether it's to work, to health care, to shopping, to doctors' offices, to school, to universities, to training programs. That's how we get there from our homes. But we have had a system in the past few decades where we have underinvested in public transportation, and we continually spend on roads and highways. And that's created a transportation system that has made us completely dependent, or almost entirely dependent, on cars to get around. But I think what others have said today is that cars are expensive. They're expensive to own, they're expensive to operate, and they're expensive to maintain. For low-income families, they're often prohibitively expensive. If you can imagine taking people's roads away from them and how would they get where they need to go? But for some people, for many people, the cars, they can't afford them. So their alternative is the public transportation. And the connection, therefore, is severed. So, as I mentioned, the state has done a terrible job of investing in public transportation. And it is a matter of how we allocate our transportation resources. And we've done a terrible job. We rank 40th in the nation for our commitment to public transportation in this state. But I don't think that completely absolves the county of its own responsibility to invest. And so I just want to ask you that when you're thinking about public transportation, please think about it not as just a health and human service, but a transportation alternative. And think about it in conjunction of your transportation system. Thank you.
You really hit the nail on the head on a lot of issues, definitely. Anyone else?
This is public hearing for transit.
All right, I'll wait then.
Wait till. Go. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Here we go, another person. What date is our next one scheduled
Do you know the next hearing date? Public hearing. This is
for?
it?
We're going to do one, we don't have to do two. Okay.
No. So you make a decision today, or you can wait?
Hello, my name is Sharon Ratliff. I will live at Riverview Plaza here. I work at the Midway Mall, just working 10 hours a week because I can't work much because I have gout, so it's been a problem. But if the bus system quits, I would have to quit my job, go on disability, which I do not want to have to do. There are a lot of people that work at the mall that ride this bus. We have like 6 people in our just cleaning disability that take the bus. So that's really important to me. But too, like the other people said, I can't get to a lot of my appointments to doctors. I have to take a cab or hire somebody, $10 or $20 to take me one way. So this is important to us. A lot of the people that live at Riverview Plaza need the bus system. The big majority of them don't drive, they don't have cars. A lot of times, most of the people, you can't trust them to take you places. So it's really important to us.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, excuse me, Rick Kruick. I'm from Kipton, Ohio. I've been listening here to all these things, and I find it very ironic that we're talking about revenue from casinos. And if I'm not mistaken, casinos still provide free transportation for people to go there to gamble and throw money away, and these same people don't seem to want to support the community and pass, for example, this income tax here that just failed.
The sales tax.
I'm sorry, the sales tax. And what does it say about our society? And forgive my naivety, I guess, but I'm a little disgusted and disappointed, I guess, with the whole community in a way for its failure to, take care of people, as we've been hearing here today. That's really all I've got to say. I don't have any solutions.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Would we like to make a decision on this today, or look at the numbers through the week and make a decision next week? Jay,
Can I-
do we have a,
Yeah, we have time. Let me offer a timeline,
please?
if I may, but I do want to give one fact while we have an attentive audience here, because the folks that come here to speak are impassioned and are engaged, and I specifically brought our revenue numbers with me this morning to point out a fact that in 2008, the county revenue was $55,550,000 to date. In 2011, our revenue is $42,300,000 to date. So you're looking at $13+ million difference in revenue over a 3-year period. I'm not saying that that should come out of transit, so please don't misinterpret my comments here. But in those same 3-year period, everything has increased in cost. Your consumers as well as utilize the services, so you know that. We all know that. Everything continues to increase in cost and revenues continue to decrease. Now, I've never claimed to be brilliant,
Yeah,
but
you
I
have,
certainly,
turn that down.
maybe not when we're on TV, but I know that that formula cannot continue to go that way and us still be able to continue to provide services that this community needs. So I hope you don't mind me pointing that out, but I think it's important at this hearing when we're talking about service cuts and revenue enhancements with fares that we point out that huge shift. And we haven't even gone back to when we lost local government, which predates 2008, which was
Right.
another $3.5 million
Right.
a year.
And at that time, we gave how much to transit?
There
$1
was
million?
times since 2000 that we were giving $1.5 million to transit, and we're down to $50,000.
But you just said that we were down 12 million?
13
13 million in just a few years?
If you add
And
in
when
the-
they're talking, a lot of people came up and said, you know, when the casino money comes in, you think that's going to be extra money for us and we should put it towards transit. It's not extra money. It's money that we're going to be able to use to hopefully not lay off more people than we already have in the years 2012 and 2013. We're looking at a
10 and a
possible
half.
$10 million deficit in 2013, which means more of everybody, every department, possibly looking at additional layoffs. So if we do get $1 million, it's not even really going to, it's only a drop in the bucket compared to what we actually need. So, and if it goes up to the $5 million, it's still only half of what we need for regular services, not to mention transit. And I hope all of you, and probably most of you, you're pretty educated and know the fact that most communities have a dedicated sales tax or some kind of tax that runs the transit. And the commissioners throughout the years, even prior to Ted and I and Tom being here, just took that out of the general fund because they had the money. But we don't have that money anymore. So, you know, somewhere down the line, you guys, the people that are passionate about transit, need to come forward and say, we need to put a tax on, and you guys go out there and sell it because you use it and you know how desperately it's needed.
You know, Citizens Committee can petition the Board of County Commissioners to go on the ballot, so.
And it would be your tax, not ours. So that might be something you might want to consider.
And again, also if you roll back in the loss of local government funds that occurred a couple of years before 2008, you know, you'll be looking at almost $17 million difference in potential revenue because we still had that 3.5.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to point out to people that you're not making arbitrary decisions here, and there's no capriciousness in it. This is a mighty struggle that we're embraced in, and it's not getting any better. And we don't see any light on the end of the tunnel, as was talked about earlier before the public meeting, with regard to moving forward into the next year or two. Now,
Thank you.
what I suggest, though, is that in order to give some respect to the people that have taken the time to submit written documentation to the public hearing, that we not take action today, that we review that material. They took the time to submit it to the board, and we should take the time to look it over. And that maybe in one of our 3 meetings left, or possibly 2 meetings left, going forward through the year, to the end of the year, we put this on our agenda. I would say right before Christmas, maybe in 2 weeks. That should give us sufficient time to take input. Does that sound reasonable?
That's fine.
Yes.
Any more comments, commissioners?
I'd just like to say that, you know, I have a car, so I can't say that I feel your pain, but I do care about your pain, and I think the other commissioners do as well. So we'll do the best we can with what we have.
Now we'll go into public comment based on the commissioners'
Do we need to close the hearing yet?
We just
We
did.
did,
We
okay.
just did that.
That's right, okay.
Whoever, David, Joe, whoever's coming first.
We're going to fight over the spot.
That poor dog is stuck underneath the table. He's going to lose his coat again. The dog going to lose his coat. He's getting stuck.
Oh. Yes, David.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Ashenhurst Oberlin. I'm supposed to be in a meeting with clergy right now, so I'm going to say amen. Because I'm also speaking on behalf of Shirley Johnson and Elizabeth Rummix, who I'm sure are going to be very unhappy to have missed this meeting, I hope I get just a hair more than 3 minutes. I believe you've heard again why it was all of Oberlin that passed the sales tax and not just the students. I'm interested in that Citizens Committee idea, and I'm going to find out more about how to get that done over the course of time. And I was tempted to take 3 minutes under transit as well as 3 minutes in public comment, but I consolidated everything. I'm actually here to speak about something else I hope you don't consider doing any further, and that is charging prisoners for staying in jail. Well, that has been discussed here, and I want to call your attention to a letter from the American Civil Liberties Union to the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. It's on the ACLU's website. It's referring to an article in the Columbus Dispatch of November 30th. The letter is dated December 5th. It's from James Hardiman, the legal director at the ACLU of Ohio. The sheriff there proposed, and the Board of County Commissioners had approved, a policy requiring inmates at the Franklin County Jail to pay a reception fee. We urge you to reconsider this proposal as there are numerous problems with this plan. Oftentimes, county officials adopt these plans to generate revenues, yet they tend to yield little long-term savings. Officials in Claremont and Medina counties have ended similar programs after they found the programs problematic to administer, more red tape than is fiscally sound, and concluded that the idea sounds better on paper than in implementation. The letter goes on to talk about the financial disadvantage it places on prisoners as well. Often they don't have any money to begin with. Often their commissary fees don't cover paper, stationery, postage stamps, getting anything, communicating with their loved ones. At the end of this is also referenced a report, In for a Penny, The Rise of America's New Debtors' Prisons. And this actually refers to a problem in places other than Ohio, but Ohio is one of the communities, one of the states. This is a national report, but one of 5 states that's really focused on where people are basically being put in jail for being poor. I am hoping to visit this week someone I understand is in the county jail for 60 days because he has failed to pay some $600 in child support. He's not a guy who this is not a guy who has a criminal avoidance of child support. He doesn't have any money. And he doesn't have any money in part because he can't get any farther than he can get on his bicycle to do the little landscaping he's been trying to do, to make some money for himself, for anybody else. He is also an ex-offender in a state prison system, and with respect to the testimony you heard before that said, don't raise the fares, I'd sure have you raise the fares before I'd have you wipe out any more transit. And the reductions in transit are obviously a whole lot more than they're not proportional. We've cut it down a lot more than the 10% or 12% that have been cut in other departments. So it's a combination of things. Last thing is, I'm also sitting on now the county mental health board, and I'm sorry Charlie didn't stay here for the whole presentation here, because once a month we hear from the agencies that are funded through the mental health levy. But that mental health levy can't go as far as it used to because there's no transit. When Genesis House, the domestic violence program in Lorain County, presented to the mental health board in finding out what's the biggest problem people face there, it's transportation. It's not, that they're not getting other kinds of police protection and following up. But if they're getting social services, now the Nord Center can't run its own transportation anymore. There's just a whole lot in this transit thing, but I also want to urge you not to consider further trying to charge inmates, and I will send the commissioners the link to this ACLU letter and accompanying report.
Well, we have the letter from Franklin County. It'd be interesting to see how the ACLU letter pairs up with that. But I will tell you that I found it very interesting that there are inmates that have considerable commissary balances that can't pay.
A lot of them come in with a big stack of money in their pocket.
Right. They're not all destitute.
Right.
The counterbalance here is they get sentenced to prison, and hopefully they're all guilty. I know that there's some that may not be or have had problems in the system. I mean, there's too many that have been released for me not to recognize that. But truth is, it's costing us well over $100 a day to house a prisoner.
I know, and you're paying $100 a day to house somebody who's in there because he can't pay $600 in child support.
But not knowing the specific case, I won't challenge you. But normally they don't put them in jail when they can't pay. There's usually a lot more to it. Now
I know,
but you're on TV here, and I want to be careful because people are going to listen to what you say, and they're going to go, "Oh my God, that's terrible, and why are we doing that? So it just costs us X thousands of dollars, and he has no money, has no job." Normally, they don't order incarceration from the courts until there's a pretty
I understand.
good reason.
And I will find out more about this one, and I believe there's more to the story.
Yeah,
but
there's probably some assets or some reasons why. Because I know as a very last resort, because the court's position has been that we put them in jail and they're never going to be able to pay because they're not going to earn any money in jail. Right. So it's better to keep them engaged somewhere in the community and work with them so that they can eventually, pay their obligations.
The other part of that too is my proposal, not written proposal or anything, but what I had suggested was when people are going to be booked, that they would fill out the form to find out whether they are indigent, and if they are, then this wouldn't apply to them. But if they are not indigent, they would be charged not a booking fee, registration, whatever kind of fee, $50, $100, whatever is deemed appropriate. And then, that way we would also have their address and phone number and a way to contact these people, because that's part of the problem is, we don't have addresses and good phone numbers on the people, and they try to chase them down for their fees and fines, and they never find them.
And by the way, the ACLU also went after the issue with the phones because there's a substantial cost to use the phones, and it's a revenue generator. And years back, they went after that too. So it's a similar situation.
I will give you my copy of the ACLU letter, and I also will give you my copy of one page of the executive summary where they enumerate. I mean, again, sometimes it's for failure to pay their fines or inability to pay the fines associated, where it's a fine or a term in jail.
But again, I don't want the average, somebody that flips on the TV to kind of hear that. Normally there's a lot more to it, and usually an inability to pay because of no job is usually not something that lands you in jail.
No. Correct. First you lose your license, and there's a string of things that happen.
I understand, but of course losing your license in a place that doesn't have any public transit.
Again, that's another extreme
Just
result.
when you go see the clergy today, keeps telling them, Commissioner Kokoski is praying for a miracle. So, and that's what we need here in Lorain County to fund everything.
Well, as I say, the Ohio example that's profiled here is not in Lorain County, to my understanding, but and the letter refers to these other counties. But as I say, this is partly to keep something Mrs. Johnson in particular is very interested in before you. So I'll give you my copies of those things, Mr. Cortez, and I hope you'll share it with the others.
Perfect, David. No problem.
Thanks, David. Mr. Thayer?
We have to give it to Teresa.
Yeah, that's what I'm passing. Okay. I'm not messing with the clerk either.
Yeah, don't mess with the
clerk. David tried that earlier.
We're teasing you, David. We're teasing you.
You've been patient.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Cortez, Mr. Ennis. Couple quick things here, and kind of all in the interest of the general issue with money as we continue to talk about transit, whatever that may be. A couple questions running through the agenda. Item number 9, what labor law firm is used by the county to negotiate these contracts or deal with disputes?
Clemens
Nelson.
They're used for everything?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Why is it, and I know there's probably a lot of conversation with this, but as I've expressed to other governmental agencies, why is it we need to pay labor law firms to come in and negotiate contracts, deal with disputes, deal with the unions and the bargaining units, when we have our own employees here on staff that are attorneys paid for taxpayer money? We're kind of paying twice, aren't we?
Okay, a couple things. I'd like to respond to that, if you don't mind.
You've been here longer than the rest of us, so go ahead.
First, we don't have a legal firm. We have a firm that does HR and labor relations, so we don't have a law firm. That's been something that's been bandied around for a long time. Secondly, the unions always show up with their paid representative in their legal arm to negotiate their contracts. I think that if we did that with internal folks, I think that the local bargaining union should do it with their internal folks without external resources also.
Well, there should be a, whether it's an MOU or an agreement, I don't disagree.
So, I mean,
know many of the negotiations I've been involved in don't include attorneys, at least in the building trade sector.
Yeah, but we don't have attorneys. I'm just saying.
I understand.
But if the local showed up with just their local guys out of the local unit, we'll show up with just our guys.
And that goes both ways.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We all sit and talk, whether it's on a personal relationship or business relationship, and negotiations essentially is just sitting, talking, trying to resolve an issue. It's really no different than me up here talking to you guys,
but
issue to address. It doesn't have to be that difficult. But I mean, I know countywide, city, pick any area, there is a lot of money that's spent on these situations that maybe doesn't need to happen.
But you do acknowledge that, though, when we have a bargaining going to the table, they have a paid representative at the table with them, sometimes two, right?
Whether our union representatives or attorneys.
Again, we don't have attorneys at the table. We're talking about union. We're talking about people negotiating on our behalf.
Right. So us as union representatives would be no different than you as representatives of the county, correct?
No, you don't work. I work for the county. The people that are at the table work for the county. You guys are paid outside to come in and help the people working for the county that are in the bargaining unit.
That's why they're in a union.
Well, that's why we hire people.
Right. So do the same thing, the expertise part of it, Joe.
But we don't have a HR department. The only person that has ever had any dealings with the unions is Mr. Cortez.
Yeah.
So,
and as the membership of any particular union, they elect their officers to represent them to do those jobs. And in some cases, those members that are sitting at the bargaining table as officers are also employees in a factory, public sector, whatever setting have you. So, just a point to look at that, from both sides, could be a lot.
Fun with you, Joe.
I know, a lot less money and a lot less headache.
I think they're sitting do it over a beer or a cup of coffee.
Well, we don't have any coffee here, so.
I
know. Sorry, Commissioner Williams.
I don't drink the stuff anyhow.
And mine's cold.
No more Coke, Diet Coke in the commissioner's office.
I'll second that.
Item number 12. Did the county receive any other bids or quotes, or was it just simply Emerge? Is that who we've typically dealt with for those services?
Job and Family Services, and it's for $9,420. So, request for proposal, or is this a renewing contract? The Emerge contract?
It's renewing.
I believe it's a renewal.
I don't have my glasses on.
I believe it's a renewal.
It's a renewal.
It's a renewal.
I can't tell you whether they went out for quotes or
Peggy has done that in the past.
She hasn't passed, but I can't tell specifically on this one.
She did before she left, I believe.
Did she?
Yes.
Okay.
Just curious. And then item number 17 with the TB clinic, listening to that conversation, the employees that potentially and probably will be affected by this MOU, if this went through the process, are they covered by a CBA through the county? Are they represented as county employees? What's
There's no CBA.
No. Okay. But there are county employees?
Right.
Okay.
You would agree, though, that they deserve the same treatment, though, whether it's a CBA or not, right?
Well, I asked that, and really that or item number 12, not a union or non-union issue, just looking from both sides of the fence. And, as we continue to see cuts, union or not, to county employees, social services, as Office on Aging, Transit, TB clinic, et cetera, the general perception, not only from labor but the public, and this is a conversation to engage, when are the cuts going to be weighted evenly? I'm not saying that you guys haven't put the time in. You guys, whether it's on the county level, city, state, governmental agencies right now, terrible position. We all know the money's not there. And I personally appreciate the time you guys all put into this, as well as your employees, trying to figure out what the solution is. But, in discussion, especially around campaign time with levies on the county, it always keeps coming up. The cuts are always on the backs of the workers, CBA covered or not, more so than they are at the top shelf.
I can,
yeah,
if you don't mind.
No.
Okay. Well, the reason they're being that way, Joe, first of all, when you're going there, those parts aren't mandated. County government, we're just one branch office of the state of Ohio. Whatever they tell us, they're like our big brothers up there. We just have to perform. So first of all, we have to cover the mandated services first, which is, we've all talked about, everybody's aware of the 70+% that goes to our justice system. You heard this morning about discussion with DR, they're getting a $300,000 grant, but we don't think we can recover $300,000 back to the general fund to provide other services. And we have done the cuts, but we have multiple people doing multiple positions. When you're saying at the top end, can't get rid of us unless you change Ohio code. There's 3 of us in every county unless it becomes a charter form of government.
Understand.
At the managerial staff, we have cut so severely through departments. Our directors are doing 2 and 3 things. Lisa, your newest addition this year. So we've done, so the people at the top end have taken more responsibilities, actually doing the day-to-day work also. It's not like they're overseeing multiple departments. They are actually doing in the case of our budget director, the budget work, and purchasing is part of her bailiwick now. So, we've got the people at those skill levels who can do multiple items versus having, so you're saying when the worker loses their job, because the director is capable of doing the multiple jobs, and that's what they've been doing.
We don't have any departments with 2 supervisors in them anymore.
Nope.
We have some departments with no directors. We have no director of the airport, where they used to have 2, the assistant and the director. We have no director of transit, when we had a director and a fiscal person and an assistant director. We've reduced the supervisor position at the bridge. It looks like we're going to reduce the remaining one and try to absorb that responsibility in. We used to have 2 senior people in HR. One was a director, one was a coordinator. Those are vacant. We used to have an assistant county administrator. That's vacant. We used to have an assistant community development director. That position is vacant. I could give you a long list. I agree with you philosophically. You and I are not in disagreement. Yeah. It has to be proportional.
And believe me, with my involvement,
I just want to share with you. That's all.
In my involvement in things, I do understand a lot of what was just stated, and I appreciate again the work that's put into it on all sides of the fence, whether we have philosophical differences on that or not. But just the general perception. That's why I raised the question, to have that explanation on record. As we go into the next campaign season, if there indeed is a levy, there has to be a greater educational piece in order for all of us to be successful. We just can't go out. This is what we need just because that's why we need it. We're broke. Explain what you guys have done in a better detail. I think works better. So
the folks at the TB clinic, just so because you brought up and I can share with you. My understanding is that Mercy is probably going to hire 2 or 3 of the rank and file. Again, I don't want to make any commitment. That's the discussions I've had with them. but they're not hiring any management team.
Yeah, and I bring that up not in any negative way towards Mercy. Mercy is a great healthcare system. Mr. Oley has done great work over there, not only for the hospital but for the community. I think he's going to do great work here when this is done with.
The relationships have changed over the last couple of years.
At the end of the
haven't
day, just looking out for the people. That's all.
And that's why I said I know you're concerned with the workers, not just the CBA, and that's why I gave you that opportunity to say that. It affects all workers, and I know what your concern is. And I hope we've demonstrated to you that we've taken significant cuts throughout the complete ranks. We've also lost all of our foremen and all of our line supervisors. We don't have any of them anymore. There's no layers of management. Everything is compacted, and we're very flat organization, and that's the way it needs to be. To prove that everybody is taking it pretty hard. And I'll share that with you anytime, Joe. We've talked about that, and I appreciate your concerns on that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else wishing to address the board? I'll make the motion to move into executive session as outlined by the county administrator.
Second.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.